Hello everybody. This is the fourth English version of our live series on Facebook and YouTube on the basic to advanced in cerebral palsy. In this talk, I have given the talk on assessment of child with cerebral palsy at home. Everyone start thinking that why assessment of cerebral palsy children is important for the parents' point of view, because it is the job by a specialist, doctor, consultant, therapist everywhere. But as we know that cerebral palsy is multiple disability, child can have many problems. We have to search many places of the specialist, then you can get the proper guideline, what to do, what not to do. It is better to have the complete knowledge about your own child, then you can manage in a much better way. Why it is so important? You will be knowing about the present situation of the child, what the present condition is there, what are the positive and negative changes in the cerebral palsy children in your child. You can make further plan of action according to the problem at time present in this child. You can consult a specialist once you see some problems which hamper the condition of the child. That's very important. Most of the time we can't recognize that problem and the problem becomes big, and at that time specialists also feel very difficulty to manage all those problems. You can also send the complete detail to the specialist for rapid evaluation for the social media, for the WhatsApp, by the mails. Your plan of action will go in a smooth manner if you have complete assessment of your own child. You can determine the functional prognosis, what will happen in the future, and you can also make assessment repeatedly and the changes occurring with the age, weight and growth. Why, in which sector are you going to make assessment? If we are talking about the WHO, World Health Organization, he has given the classification of every disease according to the International Classification of Functional Disability in Health. They have categorized in three parts. First part is body structure, function, and what are the anatomical and what are the functional problem in the child, like a muscle tone, muscle strength, selective motor controls. And important than that, it is the activity of participation in the society, ADL activities. That is more important along with the quality of life. And third aspect is environmental factor, which hamper the child growth, child capabilities, and even the child problem can changes the environmental conditions. So we have to make assessment in three parameters. One thing is what are the structural and functional abnormalities of the child, what are the activity of daily livings and participation in this society along with quality of life. A third thing is environmental factor, which is going to the impact on the child. When we see that developmental milestone, what are the different areas where we have to make different assessments? First area is cognitive developments. This is the child ability to learn and solve the problems. That is very important as per lifelong issues is related. Social and emotional development. This is the child ability to interact with others, including helping themselves and self-controls. Third thing is speech and language development, by which they can communicate with their family members, their siblings, their society members. Third thing is very important is fine motor activities, just like writing, painting, drawing, eating, fooding, and buttoning and taking the shoes, socks. And last is gross motor functional development, like the walking, crawling, creeping, able to many of the gross activities. What point to be written, what point to be taken during the assessment? Just take the diaries and pen, start writing your child complete profile, which will include name of the child, age of the child, and at that age the child have the what stage of the developmental milestone, that is the character age, any family history of the developmental disabilities, If there, you should also note down that. What are the problem occur to the mother and child during the birth and after the birth, that has to be mentioned in the diary, because it is very very important for making the diagnosis and differentiate from the other problems. We also look down on the medical associated problems. We will discuss later on. What are the nutritional condition of the child, like the protein malnutrition, thin built, or child is obese? What are the functional activities of the child and along with their functional disabilities? Then, after going all those history and related information, we will go for the physical exams. We have to see what are the sensory motor primary, secondary, tertiary issues, so that we have to make detailed physical exams, and we have to see what are the walking pattern of this child, that is the gait patterns, any behavioral problem of the child's, any investigation has been done for this child's, any adaptive equipments like the stick, elbow crutches, wheelchairs, this computers, keys, different varieties of assistive devices, any therapy, any treatment has been given before coming to one place. Whatever time you are making this assessment, you have to note down each and everything in the diary. Then it will be very very easy for you and as well as your specialist to quantify what are the problem and how to start the treatment plannings. What are the associated medical which should be mentioned? As I have already mentioned in first lecture of this basic to advanced in cerebral palsy, convulsions, this is controlled or uncontrolled, because it is found in 50% of the children with cerebral palsy. Sensory deficit, what are there, that should be also noted. What type of the speech problem, they are able to speak or not. There in the speech also different type of the problems. There is speech articulation is problems, communication is problems, mental retardations, and different field of the education where he is feeling the problem, just like learning disability, writing disabilities, visual defect, he is able to see or not. If there is any squint of this eye or using any glasses, poor immunities, chest congestion, if child have sleep disorder, behavioral abnormality, growth retardation, feeding problem, like the difficulty in eating the solid food, gastroesophageal reflexes, obesities, dental problem, everything should be noted down so that it will be easier for you to consult the specific consultant and specialist. First of all, in this all parameter, we should like to know about the normal developmental milestone of the child. We have already discussed in third lecture by Dr. Baridmala Jain. She has told that what are the developmental milestones in the normal children, where they are going to sit, when they are going to stand, when they are going to walk, and how they are going to use the staircase, and when they can run and can do all these activities. I am not going to discuss all this detail. It will be given in the PPT lectures. And very very important, we have developed that Tresla functional score. Tresla functional score means we have noted down what are the functional capability and disability child have, like the neck holding, like the sitting balance, like the standing balance, like the running, and what are the higher activities, self-care, just like eating, fooding, buttoning, shoe taking. And we have given 0, 1, 2, 3. 0 means not able to do, 1 means initiation, 2 means with support, 3 means without any support. If you are having this functional score, you can note down this functional score, recheck again after 3 months of the good therapeutic protocols. You will see the changes, and you can also further plan of action if there is no changes and child is deteriorating. This has been given in Hindi and English both, in different segment, different slides. We will give it to you in the PPT models. Now come to the gross motor functional classification system. Gross motor functional classification system is fixed at the time of birth, and that is a fix for each and every children. That show the neurological status of this child. It is 5 level classification, level 1 to 5. 5 means completely on wheelchair, is not able to do any activities. Level 1 means nearly normal with slight limitations. Level 2 मतलब walk with limitation. Level 3 means hand-held mobility devices. Level 4 means self-mobility with limitations. But all 5 level differ at different age groups. GMCS level at movement, sitting, walking and use of mobility devices. It is helpful because it provides families and clinicians with clear-cut description of the child current medical and motor function, an idea of what equipment aid a child may need in the future. That aid should be given to the each and every children where it is required, like the walking frame, wheelchair and crutches. Because if you are not using, then they will have the more energy expenditure, their growth will be hampered in long terms and they will be frustrated also. GMCS is meant for the prognosis, not for the outcome of the treatment, so that GMCS should not be compared with the treatments. And correct assessment of the GMCS is possible at the age of 6 years, but we make some guidelines, some make the idea about what GMCS at about 2-year age groups, but correctly we can say at the age of 6 years. And we have declared that 1 to 3 level is the walker children and 4 5 is non-walker. They have to use the wheelchair other model. In less than 2 year of age groups in GMCS, we focus our activities of the child on the floor activities like the creeping, like the sitting, like the crawling. In the GMCS 1, they can sit on the floor without any support, but GMCS 2, they start sitting but adult assistant. GMCS 3 only roll and cropping there, and GMCS 4 only sit upward with trunk assistant, and 5 means nothing they can do, neck only will also be not there. In 2 to 4 years groups, walking we are focusing on what type of the walking pattern is there. In 1, walking is preferred. GMCS 2, there is assistive devices walking pattern is there. GMCS 3 means crawling pattern is there. GMCS 4 means the stomach creeping is there. GMCS 4 means still it is very limited. In 4 to 6 year age groups, GMCS 1 they can walk freely. GMCS 2 they can walk with light slight support. GMCS 3 only with support and assistive devices. GMCS 4 only short duration walk with support, and GMCS 4 they cannot walk, they need always assistive devices. In GMCS 6 and 12, because child is mature enough at the 6 year age groups, so in the GMCS 1 they can jump, they can walk, they can ride, they can climb. But GMCS 2 they can walk independent in the house, but outside they need some stick support. GMCS 3 means they have to use the stick and elbow crutches in the house, but outside they have to use walker or wheelchair. GMCS 4 means they can walk inside with walker, but outside they have to use manual wheelchair, and 5 means totally dependent. Another score is very important, that knows is functional mobility score scales. That is reverse, just like this GMCS. GMCS 1 to 5 is increasing disorder of disability, but in this 1 to 6 increasing abilities, not a disability. 1 means wheelchair, 2 means walker, 3 means elbow crutches, 4 means stick, 5 means independent and with slight limitation, and 6 means totally independent. But all this measurement is being done 5 meter, 50 meter and 500 meter in the communities. C means they cannot do this, they are only crawling, and N means not applicable, not able to do any activities. So FMS score is very important after the surgery, after the treatment. This very important to guide the parents also themselves, and especially it can guide parents also. They can make the changes after the surgery and therapeutic control interventions. Now come to the topographical classification: hemiplegic, diplegic, triplegic, quadriplegic. You have to note down which limb is affected. But in most of the children before the age of 2 years, it is very difficult to determine a single limb are affected or all 4 limbs are affected. But still we have to see which limb is more functional and which limb is more affected. Now that is very important. Now come to the clinical classification according to the site of lesion in the brain and movement disorder and tone disorders. Spastic variety, as you know, it is a very common varieties of the cerebral palsy, we have to note down child is spastic, it is too much tight is their body, but it is same type of the presentation during the rest, during the activity, there is no changes in tone pattern, and most of the, sometime it is seizuring, crouching, lots of gait pattern will be there, that means it is spastic is there. In dyskinesia, athetosis is first. Athetosis means slow rising movement in the body, that is known as athetosis. Chorea means a fine tremor, and sometimes this rapid forward movement, and chorothyroid means mixed type of the movement disorder is there. Dystonia means that can be one part of the body and whole body is involved. This twisting movement of the body and become normal during the rest and during the sleeping patterns. Ataxic cerebral palsy, in which child is not able to make depth of the ground, so his gait will be wide based, he will not able to walk smoothly, his balance will be very very poor, he can fall down when he walking for a long duration. Even using the assistive devices is very very problematic for the ataxic cerebral palsy. And lastly, it is the mixed cerebral palsy, when two types of the cerebral palsy can be mixed. After seeing this motor functional disability, now come to the communication functional classification system. Like the GMCS label, it is also categorized in 5 varieties. One means nearly normal, sender and receiving walking with unfamiliar and familiar partners, and they can talk to every person, they are familiar or unfamiliar. In two, they can talk to the familiar person, but it is very very difficult to communicate their thought to the unfamiliar persons. Stage 3, effective sender receiver with familiar partner only with slight problem. 4 means this effective sender receiver with familiar atmosphere, but it's still very very difficulty. And 5 means they are not communicating still even in a familiar environments. Now come to the classification of eating drinking ability classification system. In this also EDCS, this is label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 means unable to eat or drink safely. They can easily choke by the food, so that the children need the rice tube feeding or gastrostomy feedings are given to the children. Level 4, eat and drink with significant risk of choking and safety. So they can be fed only in the presence of the parents, and lots of care should be taken. If there is not enough, then rice tube feeding is also advisable in level 4. Level 3, they can eat and drink with some limitations, and there is limitation in efficiency, they can take long time in eating and drinking. Level 2, they can eat and drink with slight increase in the time and the support of the parents. Level 1 means they can eat and drink without any support, they are normal. Now come to the upper limb assessment. Upper limb is very very important for each and every children with cerebral palsy, because if child is not able to walk, if they are able to do all the activities by the hand, like toileting, like the fooding, like the writing, they can any do, and they can have the good quality of life. So upper limb assessment is very very important. In upper limb, we have to assessment can be done in 3 parts: motor planning, sensory examination, and bimanual coordination. In motor planning, we have to see power of the muscle, tone in the muscles, abnormal movement patterns, fine motor activities, precision of the grips, lateral pinch, pulp pinch, palmar grasp, cross motor activities, grasp and release twist. And in sensory phenomena, touch, pain, 2-point discrimination, joint position is very very important for the fine motor activity in the hands. And bimanual coordination, that pattern work for both hands, it is also very very important. In grossly, when we see the upper hand function, this also given in the classification system of manual ability classification system max level 1 to 5. 5 means does not handle object and severely limited abilities. 4 means handle a limited selection with easily managed object in adaptive situation. They need adaptive situation. Level 3, some modify the activities, they can do activities. And level 2, with some limitation and speed of the movement will be slow, but they can do activities. And level 1 means they can easily do and successfully without any support, without any hindrance. Now come to the house functional classification in more finer manner. It can be done for the right and left hand and both hands separately, and we can count this grading system. 0 means does not use, 1 means poor passive assisted, 2 means poor passive assisted, 3 means good passive assisted, 4 means fair active, 5 means poor, 6 means good active assisted, 7 means spontaneous activity but partial, 8 means spontaneous but complete work can be done by the child. It is also given in the Hindi in this PDF file, and it's very important. One assessment tool came few years back that is known as Sign Hospital Upper Extremity Classification System by the hand function. In this different type of the activities will be done and the video recording will be done, and after the video recording their grading will be decided and their scoring will be decided after the whole activities in measured by the videos, and finally we have to calculate and see the scoring of the SHU system. Now come to the physical examination. In the physical examination we will see sensory examination, motor examination, joint range of movements, bony and joint deformity. In sensory we know different senses in the body are working, as you know. Touch, pain, touch means touching the stimulation, pain means if there is any painful feeling is there, temperature hot and cold, vision means eye visions, hearing, smell, taste, proprioception in the joint position, and even the vital organ, that means just like a choking, constipation is not able to do, and blood pressure, lots of things is there. We cannot measure that interoceptor, but this is the part of the sensory assessment. What are the motor problem in this disabled child and how to make assessment? And in this we have to primary, secondary, tertiary component. In the primary there is loss of selective motor control. Because of that, this lack of fine motor control, and child will have the difficulty in coordinated and alternative movement. We have to see how much selective motor control child have and in which group of the muscle this selective motor control is lacking. If the child is lacking selective motor control, they cannot identify the different categories of the movements, they cannot perform fine motor activities. Second problem is the issue of balance and equilibrium. Because of that, child will have difficulty in keeping the body in anti-gravity posture, muscle tone and muscle power. We have to make assessment. What is selective motor control? This impaired ability to isolate and control movement, compound strength assessment, and combined to ambulatory and functional motor abilities. How it is simply tested? As I am showing you in this dummy, that if I ask this girl that make this movement just like he has to flex the wrist, I will ask, I am holding whole other extremity so that they cannot work all those movement of this time. I will ask especially to move in the fingers only, just to take the finger flexion. She is able to do or not. If there is no ability, that means grade is 0. If this partially isolated movement is possible, then grade 1. 2 means completely isolated movement. Isolated movement means only one movement, that is the flexion of the finger or flexion of the wrist, not the elbow, not the shoulder, other movement should not be done. That is known as a selective motor control. That is very important in the fine motor activities. Now we have to see muscle power. Muscle power, we have given the 6. 0 means complete paralysis, 1 means just flickering of the contraction is possible, 2 means movement possible but only if gravity is eliminated. Just ask this girl to make the extension of the elbow. So extension of the elbow is being done again with gravity eliminated. That means grade 2. Grade 3 means with gravity. That means I just ask to make the elbow extension. So like this. This is the elbow extension with the gravity is the 3. Grade 4 means movement possible but against the small resistance. She is able to do. That means it is grade 4. 5 means this completely normal. When we are pushing down, still that she is able to do all this power, that means it is great power, muscle power. So that all the anti-gravity muscle power should be checked, note down on the diary. So we should know that what is the grade of power is there, so that the muscle is weak, we can start the strengthening of the muscle. That will also make the good balance in the body and strength of the child also. Now come to the spasticity. Spasticity is also given in the 4 grade. 0 means no increase in the muscle tone. 1 is slight increase in the muscle tone. 2 means more mature increase in muscle tone. When muscle tone is increased, and 4 means body is very stiff. That nothing is possible. 4 means very stiff body. 3 means some tightness is this considerable increase in muscle tone. 2 means more increase. 1 means slightly increase in the muscle tone. 0 means no muscle tone increase, this normal muscle tone. Now, how to check this specific muscle is spastic or contraction? I have taken her foot. These 2 muscle is there. One is gastrocnemius. Gastrocnemius arises above the knee, and soleus muscle arises below the knee. And I am going to test this muscle is spastic or contraction. As we do, that this is the foot position in the equinus. If I am able to do this dorsiflexion, means this I have taken able to take this feet upward up to the normal extent. That means, but with slight resistance. That means it is only spasticity. It is being measured by the R2 and R1. R1 means when there is deformity position, when you are going to take this foot to the slightly position with normal speed, then it is the R1. Where taking this is with increase in speed, but stop it here, bit slowly going to upper, it is a R2. But R2 is going up to the normal level. That's difference between the R1 and R2 is spasticity. If foot is not going upward beyond a certain limit, even with resistance, even with pressure, that means muscle is contracture. Because of that, foot is not going upward. So by that we can differentiate muscle spasticity and contracture. Because muscle spasticity means brace, therapy, sometimes botulinum toxin, but contracture needs plaster or surgery. Contracture cannot be managed by the therapy, but in spasticity no surgery should be performed. Other muscle weakness can be occurring. Now come to the secondary impairments. Secondary impairments, contracture, bony deformities, joint deformities, and torsional deformity. We will see in next slides. Tertiary impairments, that is the adaptive phenomena. What is the adaptive phenomena? When child has ability to walk, but this problem of the equinus gait, she is able to manage. In the equinus gait, his knee is rapidly going into the genu recurvatum. That means hyperextension. Hyperextension means knee is going back. This is the adaptive phenomena, genu recurvatum, that should be prevented at every cost. Genu recurvatum should not be there in cerebral palsy because if it once happened, we cannot manage it. Another problem, planovalgus feet. If this foot is equinus, we have not given the proper brace, then foot will go outside because tendon is attached slightly lateral and foot is broken. With foot broken is there. This also tertiary impairment is there. Now, after seeing all this impairment, primary, secondary, tertiary impairments, now we will focus on the physical exam. How to do physical exams? In physical exam, we need a couch, table, anything at home. Child should be comfortable on the tables. After making the comfortable child, first I will go for the hip, then knee, then foot. In the hip joint, what are the problem? That can be adductor contracture, that can be flexor contracture. Two problems are common at the hip joint. For assessing the adductor contracture, we can make assessment in 2 positions. One position, to this both limb is extended, we will take both limb outside. We will see how much the limb is going outside. If it is less than 40 degree abduction, that means it is the adductor contraction. But another position, where we can check the adductor contracture just by flexing the hip is 90 degree. We will make outward movement. If this is not able to go outside, that means adductor contracture is there. But causes are different. We are not going to the causes of the adductor contracture, but both show the adductor contracture of the hip joint. Now come to the problem at the hip, like the flexion deformity. Flexion means this lower limb is not extended properly, fully. How we can check it? We have to stabilize the pelvis by the flexion the hip and flexing the knee at the opposite side, and then we will look at this like this. Then we will see how much limb is elevated from the tables. If this is elevated, I will push the table. If I am not able to push to the table, that means this flexion contracture is there, and angle will be taken from the table levels and thigh level. That must show this flexion contracture at the hip joint. In another method, when we will, I will ask the child to lie on the prone position on the side of the bed, both leg is hanging, then we will lift the leg. If we are able to lift the leg up to the parallel to the table, there is no flexion contracture there. If we are not able to lift the leg to the parallel of the ground, we have to measure the angle between the thigh, back side of the thigh and back, and we will measure the angle of that will be as the flexion contracture of the hip joint and particular hip joint. And again, one more assessment can be done in this rectus femoris assessment. In rectus femoris assessment, in the prone position, we will bend the knee and we will see if this thigh is flexing upward. In prone position, we will also check the position of the rectus femoris. If by flexing the knee, hip is lifting up, that means rectus femoris is tight. Anterior muscle of the thigh is tight. This was the hip examination. Now come to the knee examination. In the knee, we have to check there is knee capsule contracture, that means knee flexion deformity. If we are pushing the knee on the table, we are not able to push, and this knee is lifted upward from the table, that means this knee contracture is there, that it should be because of the capsule contracture. Another thing is there, behind of the knee, there is hamstring muscle is there. We have to check the hamstring muscle. Hamstring muscle can be checked by the three methods. In one method, other limb is extended and same side limb is flexed at the knee and hip, and then I will try to make the extension at the knee. If not able to make extension of the knee, then that angle show the popliteal angle, that will show the length of the hamstring. Another method, by stabilizing, that is a much better method from the first method, in which I will stabilize the pelvis from the one side flexion and other side also hip is flexed. Then I will try to see the knee flexion contracture, that hamstring length. I am not able to extend the knee, that it show the popliteal angle, that will also indicate the hamstring length of the muscle. But as we know, we are walking in the straight fashion. For that, in third part, we will take the side of the bed, this doll on the side of the bed, and we will try to lift the leg straight. If we are not able to lift the leg straight and knee is flexing, that means it is occurring because of the hamstring muscle. This was the knee examination. Another examination is important, that is femoral torsion examination. Femoral torsion means thigh is rotated inward or outward. It is usually occurring because of the angle changes at the hip joint. In this pattern, we have to ask the girl to lie down on the prone, then we will rotate it outside, inside. We will see how much angle limb is going out or in, and we will be comparing on the both sides. In which limb is going more on the inside, not going the outside. That means it is more externally possible, but it going more outside, that internal rotation is more possible. That is because of increase in antiversions. Now come to the tibial torsion. Tibial torsion also examined in the prone position. We have to see the alignment of the foot with the thigh. If the foot is going outside, that means tibia, leg is rotated outside in compared to the femur. It will be checked on the both sides. That known as the tibial torsions. Now we will check the foot position just like equinus contracture. Foot is going downside or upside. Even in this downside position, if we are hyper dorsiflexion doing, in the extended position of the not going, and with the flexion of the knee, it is going upward. That means it is occurring because of the gastrocnemius, but upward side foot movement is not possible even in the flexed knee, that because of the soleus muscle. And we also have to see this position of the foot. Foot is broken in the mid side. What are the position of the forefoot, hind foot, mid foot? We have to check it. So, and one point is forgotten at the knee. There is position of the kneecap. It is also very, very important, but only important in the adolescent age group, because with continuous tightness of the rectus femoris, this kneecap in small bone in front of the knee will move upwards. This we will have to see the position of the patella, that is known as patella alta. This was the all about the physical exam. Now come to the gait pattern. We have to see the child is walker or not walker. Non-walker, there is no problem. Is walker, scissoring. What is the scissoring? Scissoring means crossing of the leg during the walking pattern. Crouching means bending of the knee like this. This is the crouch gait. Jumping means this child is able to walk, but both heels is lifting up and knee is also flexed. In toeing means foot is internally rotated. It is occurring because of femoral indent torsion, and equinus means one leg is heel is not touching on the ground. Now after so much examination and gait analysis, we have to come to the investigation. Lots of investigations is not needed in the cerebral palsy diagnosis. In infancy, sometimes cranial ultrasound is needed, but in adulthood, it's not possible to do ultrasound of the brain. CT scan show the gross anomalies. MRI shows the fine detail of the problems. MRI can show different type of the problem like the PBL, abnormal development, bleeding in the brain, and ischemic changes like the bleedings. EEG is being done for the epilepsy. Genetic analysis is being done for the genetic problems. Metabolic assessment is being done for the metabolic problem of the child, and X-ray is sometimes required for the foot, knee, spine to see the current status, but only in the adolescent and adult age group, not in the children. Usually very, very rarely required, but very, very important in the screening of the hip. As you know, hip dislocation is very, very common and difficult problem in cerebral palsy. So screening is must. X-ray pelvis with both hip is very important in quadriplegics and GMCS 4 and 5, because we know that dislocation is nearly 70% in GMCS 5 and 60% in GMCS 4. Screening starts from 2 years of the age groups. If this problem is there, the GMCS 3, 4, 5, then every 6 months screening is required. If there is no problem, every yearly. GMCS 2 and 1, every yearly, and afterward 2 yearly screening is required. Or in this lecture, I have mentioned complete assessment. Sit down with your child, have a table, have a relaxed position of the child, and make the history, write down on your diary, and note down every finding, and consult with your specialist, and know your child position and current situation. And also you can make assessment and different age group of your own child. Thank you.
सेरेब्रल पाल्सी में अधिक जानकारी के लिए हमारे YouTube चैनल त्रिशला फाउंडेशन और JJN 999 को सब्सक्राइब करें।